When the night becomes light, the story of St. John of the Cross. Have you ever felt abandoned by God? Have you ever prayed, waited, begged for an answer, and all you received was silence? There are seasons in life when faith feels heavy, when prayer feels dry, when darkness seems to surround us so completely that we wonder if God has turned his face away. If you've ever been in that place, tonight's story is for you. Because there was once a man who walked through a darkness far deeper than most of us will ever experience. A man imprisoned, starved, beaten, humiliated by his own brothers in religious life. A man who cried out in the night with nothing but faith holding him together. And yet, from this darkness came one of the most brilliant lights in the history of Catholic spirituality. His name was St. John of the Cross. Tonight we journey with him into the depths of suffering, faith, and divine love, to discover why some of the darkest nights of our lives become the very moments when God shapes us the most deeply. This is not just a story to admire, it's a story to live, a story that could illuminate your own night. John was born in 1542 in a small town in Spain. His family was poor, and after his father died, he and his mother lived in deep hardship. Even as a child, John learned what it meant to trust God in the midst of uncertainty. He grew into a gentle, thoughtful young man with a deep hunger for God. Eventually, he entered the Carmelite order. But after years inside, John felt that the order had drifted from its original mission. He longed for a life of simplicity, silence, prayer, and deep union with God. Then something happened that changed the entire direction of his life. He met Saint Teresa of Avila. Teresa immediately saw John's potential, a man of profound interior depth. She invited him to join her in reforming the Carmelite order. Together, they envisioned a return to authentic poverty, contemplative prayer, and complete surrender to God. But not everyone welcomed reform. Some members of the order saw Teresa and John as threats, radicals who needed to be stopped. And so, in the winter of 1577, something unimaginable happened. John was arrested by his own brothers. They dragged him to a small monastery in Toledo. They locked him inside a tiny cell, barely large enough to lie down. There was no bed, no window, almost no light. He received just enough food to survive, and every week the friars brought him out to whip him in front of the community. 9 months. 9 months in darkness. 9 months of silence, cold, hunger, humiliation, and abandonment. Most people would have broken. Many would have given up on God. But in this darkness, something extraordinary happened. John began to listen. He began to perceive God in the silence. He began to understand that even when we feel abandoned, God is nearer than ever, working deep in the soul, purifying, strengthening, reshaping it with divine love. It was in that prison cell, starving, wounded, forgotten, that John received the beginnings of what would become one of the greatest mystical writings in Christian history, The Dark Night of the Soul. This was not simply poetry, it was a map, a guide through the mysterious path God often leads us on when he purifies our hearts and draws us closer to himself. One night, weak but illuminated by grace, John made a daring escape. He slipped out of a tiny window, scaled a wall, and fled into the night. Local nuns found him, cared for him, and helped him regain strength. From that moment on, John poured out the wisdom God had carved into his soul during months of darkness. He preached mercy, contemplation, silence, surrender, and the surprising truth that the soul grows the most in hiddenness, in trials, and in seasons of spiritual dryness. His writings changed the church forever, And today, centuries later, John still whispers the same message to every person who suffers, who feels abandoned, who wrestles in darkness. Do not fear the night. God is working in you. St. John of the Cross teaches us something radically countercultural. 1. Darkness does not mean God is absent. Sometimes God removes feelings, consolations, or visible answers, not to punish us, but to strengthen us. Faith grows not only in joy, but in silence. 2. The dark night is not destruction. It is transformation. When prayer feels dry or life feels heavy, God may be removing our attachments. To comfort, to control, to the need for immediate answers. What remains is a heart purified, simplified, and ready for deeper union with Him. 3. Suffering becomes fruitful when offered to God. John's imprisonment produced writings that transformed the Church. Your suffering, if surrendered, can change lives, beginning with your own. 4. God often works most powerfully when we least feel Him. John couldn't feel God in that prison cell. But God was there, chiseling his soul like a master sculptor. So when you face your own dark night, a broken relationship, a silent prayer, a heavy anxiety, a situation with no clarity, remember, if you are faithful, your night will not destroy you. It will transform you. Tonight, I want you to carry this truth in your heart. Sometimes, God leads us through darkness not to harm us, but to teach our souls how to love Him more deeply. St. John of the Cross discovered that in darkness, the soul becomes free. Free from fear, free from self-reliance, free from needing to feel God in order to trust Him. Maybe you're walking through your own dark night. Maybe your prayers seem unanswered. Maybe your heart feels dry. Maybe life feels heavy, confusing, or overwhelming. Don't run from the night. Bring it to God. Tonight, whisper this simple prayer. Lord, even when I cannot feel you, I choose to trust you. Let that be your act of courage, your act of surrender, your act of love. And tomorrow, choose one small step of faith. Keep praying, even if it's dry. Keep loving, even when it's hard. Keep forgiving, even when it hurts. Keep trusting, even without answers. Because just as dawn followed John's darkest night, your dawn will come too. May the wisdom of St. John of the Cross guide you, strengthen you, and remind you that God is closest in the silence and is forming you into something beautiful, holy, and new. Amen.